I hesitate to actually come in here and make the argument that I want to make today. I see what's going on. I see it in Sam Cedars' videos, right? I was in Sam Cedars and somebody came in and actually, VGA, Port Authority, wanted to talk about the amygdala and the conservatives' enlarged amygdala. I've said it before on my own authority. Ultimately, conservatives have an enlarged amygdala. I've done it and I dug into, the scientific research. I would say that my preface to this video is just that on the left, I would say that our position and our fears of playing the biological card have a lot to do with the fact that, historically speaking, if you look into it, and you know your history, like I do, since history is what I'm intrigued by a lot of the times, biological supremacy was often used to justify genocide. It was the fact that the Aryans thought that they were biologically superior that made them start to annihilate their enemies, basically. And they don't want me, especially given my feelings towards the conservatives, as just, obstacles in our path to overcome, to feel the way that I do. They're especially concerned, since I'm just like, I'm so fucking done with being aggressively attacked by morons, on this channel in particular, by people that are stupid in my opinion, and it's triggering up, a lot of my frustration. I feel like it's brain worms that I'm up against, people that think that they're smart but aren't so smart. But it's this amygdala, it's this part of the brain at like the very center, and I will say that, as an autistic, we have a big problem with it too. So it's not like I'm talking about like a problem that I'm not affected by, but research shows that um meditation and mindfulness meditation will help actually shrink that part of the brain. But an enlarged amygdala is not a good thing, and it isn't a good thing because this is where all the fear, anxiety, and all that stuff it comes out of. It's where that part of the brain, it's where all those non-existent fears that I think conservatives are afraid of, kind of emerge from. And I would describe what conservatives are as like almost like, you know they they perceive threats where no threats exist at all. Like, it makes them imagine like there's a tiger in the room that isn't actually in the room. It's the fear part of the brain. It's the part that makes them dumb. And it makes them do the fight or flight type thing where they have to aggressively attack it, or they have to run from it. I don't know how to put this in the most easy terms to understand. I guess I would say that if you are hit with a financial bill, right? How does stabbing the bill help? How does running from the bill help? Avoiding it, or stabbing it won't help. And it's like this part of the brain is what's being put forward in these people all the time. And it's also like this amygdala is also, by the way, a problem for like small business entrepreneurs like me, in the sense that it's also the part of the brain that tells you, your new idea won't work, you're too dumb, or you're not allowed to try something new. You're not allowed to do that. You should sit down, shut up, and do what you're told. I mean, it's that part of the brain that acts as the warden that prevents you from doing certain things and testing your new ideas to try to make your life better and improve the world. No, it's the dumb part. It's the part that is submissive and servile to other people. And we have that enlarged amygdala problem with the conservatives. And like, even if I have an enlarged one, though, as an autistic, I can see it, in the quality of arguments that I see happen on both sides, because like I watch lefties talk to each other and I watch right wingers talk to each other as kind of an outsider to both camps. I have to tell you, what I see on the left is far more intellectual than what I see on the right. As far as argumentation, I mean, some of the arguments are dumb, here and there. There aren't dumb lefties, but there are a lot like there's a lot more intelligence that's taking place on the left because on the right it's too you know uh groupthink. It's too everybody thinks the same. On the left and my objection to this is that it should be obvious superficially really that if everybody's thinking the same, nobody's really thinking at all. you know as an observation and as a general principle. I mean, when the right is all ditto heading each other, then it's obvious nobody's really thinking at all. And on the left, almost like everybody thinks just a little bit different. Everybody is a little bit, odd in their whole way of being, and they know things and they're aware of things that maybe not everybody's aware of. But I mean, the left is constantly splintering too. It's like they're constantly separating from each other and like splintering and whatnot, and that kind of thing happens all the time on the left, and it just doesn't happen on the right. I mean, all they do is unify against what they see as a united front against them, a united threat against them, and like but this is the dumb part of the brain. It's this amygdala, and conservatives run around like they're the smart ones or they're the superior ones, and the problem they're not really the superior ones though, and they're only winning because there's more of them than there are of the other people. But that's how intelligence works. It's how like I don't my God, how do I put this? It's like the bell curve in action. Even though the bell curve is the stupid, that book is dumb. But what I'm trying to say is just there aren't a lot of people who are exceptionally intelligent, you know, and we live in a democracy, and basically the true intellects were basically doomed to be ruled over by stupid people because of the fact that in a democracy, because of the fact that there just are less intelligent people. There just aren't as many smart people, and you're living in a system where numbers matter, in a democracy. So, logically speaking, the conservatives would be winning the culture war in spite of being the dumb ones because of the fact that, there are more dumb people than there are smart people. And you live in a democracy where numbers count, they matter. So, that there are super smart people on the left and there are super dumb people on the right. I mean, yeah, there are more stupid people in this world than there are smart people. And it's a democracy, and when you have larger numbers, you tend to win. And these guys have been kicking the crap out of the left for the longest time as a result of that. But yeah, I mean, they've got that whole maladaptive, as I've said, amygdala, and it's not really the lizard brain. You don't really have a lizard brain, but I mean, this is the part of the brain that is like really part of like our like I don't know the Pacifics, and I'd really like to like it would be really interesting intellectual exercise to actually trace the whole lineage of like how our brain evolved from other species, and how it emerged into being, to see where this part of the brain actually had its origins and in what species. But yeah, this is the older part of the brain, and everything that's happening up here, like in this part, is newer. It's more novel. So that shows, it goes to argue that this is the part that is more essentially human than this part, because this lower part has been around for a long time. This part hasn't. So it's more recent in the evolutionary past, and that means that this is the evolution. This is, if you go towards this, you're devolving. You're going in reverse. And, it reminds me of an old joke about democracy that if you want to go in reverse, you vote for the Republicans. If you want to go forward, you vote for the Democrats. It's ironic, a perfect analogy between driving and voting. Republicans just want to take everything back to the way they were in 1950. The Democrats want to move forward. And it's unfortunate that it's that way. That analogy is like such a perfect description of how it actually is in the real world. I mean, like God, it's frustrating, and the left is terrified though of playing like the biology card and saying that the amygdala is what it is. It's this stupid part of the brain. They're afraid of that because like historically that's always been what we use to justify genocide against a group of people. But it nevertheless, I mean, the truth remains true even if it's stigmatized, isn't it? Like lefties are smarter than righties. And I'm not sorry for saying it. We see it. I can see the quality of the intellect on the left, and I can't see it in the right. I just can't. I mean, their arguments are all the same, and it's always something like. And I screwed up in my previous video when I said that the reaction to socialism was to be like. Well, I noticed a few errors in my previous videos, and then I said that there there hadn't been a rise in unemployment rate hadn't gone down that far, right? After that, I meant that it hadn't risen by much at all in Seattle. The other thing that I wanted to say was just after picking up on that in particular, noticing that just after I uploaded the video, and I wish that I could add that little notation to it, but something else, I'm trying to remember because my train of thought I just lost, but yeah, god damn it. So you have that particular issue, but like obviously the left is afraid of playing the biology card, like I said, so it's stigmatized to actually make these brain oriented arguments. But yeah, I mean, this is what research is bearing out. It's showing that if you have conservative tendencies, you tend to have a larger amygdala, and if you have liberal tendencies, you tend to have a larger ACC, which is like the anterior, articulate like signalum. Like I don't know how to pronounce all of that, but the ACC part of the brain, which is closer to like this cortex part of the brain, and the lizard is down there. So the left tends to be a little bit more intelligent than the right. And if so it's the part of the brain that knows propaganda is propaganda, that sees the right wing arguments and sees that they're stupid and isn't persuaded by them. That doesn't get mulled over by right wing propaganda. It sees propaganda. It knows that QAnon is obviously full of shit. It knows that these conspiracy theories are obviously crap. And if you have this, then you're not persuaded by that kind of nonsense. But if you have the smaller, then you uncritically gobble it up like it's like a pig to a trough. So there is good news though in all this, and having identified this part of the brain. If you're conservative and you are sincerely willing to change or sincerely willing to experiment with changing, there is one thing that you can do to calm your brain down and start losing some of that anxiety. Start practicing mindfulness meditation, please. It will please a lot of people if you did.